Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your host and friend, Lee. Oh, look at this. This is exciting. So, Ro is already here. Rohan, hello. Okay, so let me open this up so then I can see everything. There we go. And I think what I also have to do is I need to go over to Facebook. And you know what? I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to start getting Mike to record this, like for the audio version for you guys in another area because it always goes to just myself instead of public. So now I think it's public and you guys should be able to see it there, hopefully. So, again, welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your host and friend, Lee. I am super excited for this month. So as you guys know, and if you're listening to this for the first time, I'll explain to you how the show kind of works. We record live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And every month we have a theme. And this month's theme is going to be all about boundaries. Okay, so I'll explain to you guys in a minute why I chose that. Yeah, it's going to be a very good conversation all month long. And then what we do is every week we focus that theme around one of the pillars of the happy framework. And so week one, this week, we're going to be talking about our boundaries and how that affects our health and the way that we show affection to ourselves. And then week two, we'll talk about boundaries and our purpose. Week three, boundaries and our partnerships. Week four, boundaries and our youthfulness. And we haven't done this since July, but there are 5 Wednesdays in October. So on October 30th, we are going to have a bonus episode where we are going to just be getting to know each other. And we're going to do that lightning question round again. And that was super, super fun. So this is going to be a great month. So happy October. If you're listening to this in the audio version, who knows what month it is, but hello and welcome to the show. Okay, so the other thing is because we record live, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and you make a comment, I am going to pull that comment right up on the screen and you're going to become part of the show. So that is always my favorite part. I love it. Love it, love it when you guys are commenting, asking questions, even, disagreeing maybe with something that I've said. And so this is also going to be a good time for me to give you guys the disclaimer that I am not a healthcare professional. I am simply your friend, and I like to think about the podcast as if you have come to my home. Maybe you brought a friend or two. I've invited some other friends. We're sitting in the living room, maybe in the kitchen, and we're having a conversation. And it will be, kind of centered around that theme. But as always, if you guys have ever been in conversation with me, you know that it'll probably squirrel from one thing to the next. And that's what happens in this show. So let's get started and let us talk about boundaries and why I chose it. Okay. So Rose says, love the top you have today. Well, thank you. Thank you. It's like a jacket, but I wish I was tall enough to show you guys the bottom of it because it's really cute. So thank you. I actually have had this on since 7 a.m. this morning. I had an early morning meeting and I've been go, go, go ever since. Also, that is part of this boundaries thing. So as you guys know, every other Wednesday I have my my meeting with my coach, and I kind of use it. She's a therapist, but in the capacity that I'm working with her, it's more of a coach capacity. And I absolutely love her. And I told her today, I was like, you know what? It's so funny because some things that you said to me the first time that we were talking is now like kind of sinking in and like, oh, that's why you had me do that exercise. And oh, that's why you wanted me to look into this thing. And it's just so funny that like we've been consistently meeting every other week. And now things are really starting to come together. And so this week I told her, I was like, I think I really need to start looking into boundaries, figuring out how to set them, because my life works really, really well when I have boundaries. When I think of boundaries, I think of like when I say something, I stick to it, you know? And I just started last night reading a book. It's called Boundaries. It says when to say yes, how to say no to take control of your life. So I've just started reading the book and they explain boundaries in a really cool way. And this might be like, well, duh to you. That's fine. But it was a good visual for me. And so the way that they kind of explained it is thinking about, okay, if you own a home, and you can think of your property line as your boundary, right? That's the distinction between your home and your neighbor's home. And so what boundaries are, that is the way or where you're able to make the distinction between where you end and the next person starts, where you end and the group starts. But it that boundary is where you stop and where you are contained within that boundary. And so they're explaining it to in the book, they were explaining it about the property line and about your yard. So if you didn't have a property line, where would you end? Where would you, when you're mowing a lawn, where would you end mowing the lawn? You would just keep mowing the lawn. And then you would go and shovel. I mean, they didn't use this example, but this is what I was envisioning. You would be, let's say it was it was snowing outside and you're shoveling your driveway and then the sidewalk. And then you would shovel the next driveway and then the next sidewalk. And it would never end because you wouldn't have a delineation between you and your neighbor. So it's the same thing that if you keep giving, 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 because you don't know where you stop, where your responsibilities are, and you take on everybody else, all their feelings, all of their emotions, all of their worries as yours, even though they were not yours to have, they're not your responsibility, then you're not going to have any kind of freedom in your life. And we're all, a lot of people are looking for freedom. They're looking for time freedom. And, you know, you're not going to have any kind of freedom if you don't have any kind of distinction of where your responsibility starts and ends. So that's why boundaries are so, so important. For me, the reason why I really want to start working on my boundaries is because I have it in certain areas. Certain areas I've become very good at. Hey, this is a non-negotiable in my life. This is something that I'm going to just show up for and I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter what else is going on. I'm going to focus and be self-disciplined in that. A lot of things in my life, though, I'm not, where I allow other people's emergencies become my emergencies. Other people's feelings end up dictating how I react to something. And that's not good. That's not good. So the boundaries are going to be allowing you to show up fully how you are, who you are, without, you know, shrinking that for somebody else or changing that for somebody else or feeling like, okay, well, my feelings don't matter because your feelings are bigger and I need to be there for you and I need to protect you. And we need to really create these boundaries. So I was looking it up because I wanted to get some kind of stats for you guys, like just something to kind of make this a little bit more tangible. And some of the things that I had come up with are there were some. So there was a journal. I mean, there are tons of journals out there, you guys. There are so many books. There are so many, webinars and coaches and everything that are dealing with boundaries as a form of self-care, as a form of releasing stress. And so you can get some really good information out there. But in this show, what I really want to do is I want to kind of cover a little bit about it, and then I want to know from you. So I want you to start thinking about that while you're listening to this. I want to know from you, what kind of boundaries have you set in your life that have really served you, served your mental health, served your physical health, um, and have really shown you and your nervous system and your body and your mind that you love yourself because you set those boundaries and you kept those boundaries up, because sometimes setting them is not enough, you know? Um, so I want to know from you, what your experience is around that. I also want to know, where do you struggle? What parts of your life are you struggling setting and keeping and maintaining those boundaries? So, some of the stats and research that I found was that according to the American Psychological Association, people who practice regular self care, including setting boundaries, report lower levels of anxiety and depression. We've talked about this before, that, keeping your promise to yourself, that's part of the boundaries. Keeping your promise to yourself can increase your self confidence and lower your depression. So, setting these boundaries, it's really important, not just for you to be able to get things done, not just for you to be able to have more time, but also for you to not have that anxious, oh my gosh, where am I? Who do I have to protect? Who do I have to take care of in this moment? Right. Um, and then all of these were kind of the same. But there were also studies that suggest that individuals who set boundaries by saying no to tasks outside their priority areas have higher productivity and satisfaction. That was from Harvard Business Review. So it does help your bottom line with your business, with your goals, with your purpose, all of that. So we're going to be talking about that in the coming weeks. Um, and some of the really kind of simple things that we can be doing to be setting boundaries and sticking to them, maintaining them for our health, are scheduling me time, blocking out time on your calendar, because I don't know if you're like me, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done. But a lot of the things that we put on our calendar are doctor's appointments, um, business appointments, appointments for our kids, appointments for our husband, appointments for our wife, appointments for our friends, things that we have to show up for volunteering, all this stuff. But then we don't put in there the time for ourselves. And then at the end of the day, we're like, oh man, I just didn't have time. It's because we didn't make the time. So scheduling me time to engage in rest, in reflection, in just treating yourself, that should be a non-negotiable. That should be something that we are doing every single day. So if you're listening to this right now and you got your phone, I know you do, go into your calendar and set up some happy time, some time where you are going to look at these pillars and you are going to focus on one, two, three, maybe all five of those pillars. Set up half an hour that you're just going to touch a couple of those things. You're going to maybe go for a walk. Maybe you're going to call a friend. Maybe you're going to just like sit. Maybe you're going to read. Maybe you're going to, work a little bit on that passion project that you've got. But setting that time, and then no matter what, you use that time. If you had a doctor's appointment and you had to go to it, especially if it was for your kids, you would go to it no matter what, right? You'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't go for lunch with you. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I've got an appointment. Those me time appointments, those happy moment times, we need to be setting, and they need to become non negotiables. We also need to learn to say no. Inside this book, they say, I think it's in this book, actually, it might even be in the Worthy book that we're reading in book club. We need to learn that no is a full sentence. We do not need to say, no, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but I can't because of blah, 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 blah. Like, you don't need all this. No is fine. No, thank you is fine. No, I appreciate it. No, thanks. That's all okay. That's a fine way of answering when somebody says, hey, do you mind doing blah, blah, blah? Because people don't mind asking us, and then we feel obligated to say yes, but that was never our responsibility to begin with. We're taking on their, their emergencies or their incompetence or just the fact that they haven't organized their life in a way that they now need help from us. Can you, if you have the capacity, if you have the energy, if you have the time, if you want to, of course, say yes. You don't have to say no to everything for the rest of your life. That's not what a boundary is. But a boundary is making sure that you're doing it when you want to, on your terms, because you have the energy and capacity to do it. Listening to your body, really like paying attention to, am I saying yes right now because I feel obligated, or am I saying yes because I want to? And your body will tell you immediately. And if you start feeling like, oh my gosh, I just, oh, and you start tightening or you start shrinking, that's a big thing that this is not for you. And you can just say, no, thank you. You can also, something that I am going to start doing, because my tendency is to always say yes right off the hop. So somebody asked me to do something, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And I like try to think about how I can help, how I can do, how can I add that to my day? I want to help you. And I do want to help all the time. But a lot of the times, I don't have the capacity to help everybody. That's just not possible, right? So, what I want to start doing is I want to start kind of taking a minute that when somebody says, hey, would you mind? I need blah, 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 fill in the blank, whatever that fill in the blank is. Say, oh man, I would really love to help you. Give me a minute. I got to check my schedule. There's nothing wrong with that. And then check your schedule. And while you're checking your schedule, ask yourself, do I want to do this? And if you don't want to do it, you also don't have to lie. You don't have to say, oh, sorry, I'm busy that time. Just say, you know what? Actually, in this moment, I just thought it, I don't think that I really have the capacity to take that on right now. I'm really sorry. And if you have somebody that you can suggest somebody else, but you don't owe that person anything. So these are all things that I need to start learning, and I need to start doing. And so I would love to hear from you. What are some of the ways of you setting and maintaining? Because, like I said, setting boundaries aren't enough. We can set them all day long, just like we set our intention when we go to bed that tomorrow is going to be the day that I'm going to eat well, drink well, move, do all the things. If we don't maintain that, if we don't actually do it, it means nothing. Um, Sound guy is here. Hello. And he says, let me just open this up so I can see. For me, I have found that there are different types of me time. A hobby that's fun but has limited utility, an activity where I can accomplish or build something, and then quiet time, reading or meditating. That is awesome. Okay, so do you set times throughout the week or throughout the day that you actually have that on your calendar that this is me time for one of these things? Or is this just like, you do it when you can do it? I'd love to know, like, what, just like pragmatically, what do you do in order to make these things happen? Um, Kelly says, I would love it if we could just normalize saying, I'm sorry, I really don't want to. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Shoot, I wish that I would have thought about this, and next week maybe I'll see if I can figure out how to put a clip on here, if I can remember. So I think I've talked about this before. So if you guys have ever, I don't know if I'm dating myself because it's obviously not on air anymore, but if you ever watched Will and Grace years ago, I used to love it, love it, love it, love it. And and Karen, she was Grace's assistant, if you could call her that. She was the assistant. And I remember she came in, and I can't remember the exact episode. Like, I can't remember the exact situation and scenario around it. But basically, she had come in like late or something. I don't know. And, I think Grace, I'm going to butcher this because I'm going to find the clip and then it's going to be something totally different, but it gives you the idea. This is what happened. So let's say she walks in the room and she's totally late for her work, right? Let's say that she starts at 8, she strolls in at 11 o'clock. And uh and Grace is like, where have you been? Where have you, like, you're late. And instead of her saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," like, and coming up with some kind of excuse or some kind of guilt trip or like whatever she like was going to come up, she goes, "Oh, well, when I woke up, I just realized, I didn't really want to come in on time. So I just took care of me and that was it. And then here I am." And that was it. And then she went on and she worked. So it wasn't that exact scenario, but that was basically the message that she gave. And I absolutely love that. I watched that years ago and I still think about that. So, Kel, that is like, and Karen obviously has a bad name now. But be that Karen that's just like, I just didn't want to, you know? And I think that's okay. I actually give a lot of my friends that I put that caveat in when I invite them to places, when I invite them to do things. Um, and it's not out of years ago, it would have been out of I mean, you don't have to. Do you want to come with me to so and so? You don't have to if you don't want to. Like, it was like a thing. Now I'm like, hey, do you want to come to fill in the blank, whatever it is? And if that really doesn't sound like your jam, just tell me. It's totally fine. That's it. Like, because people don't feel like they can say no. And like Kelly said, just normalize it that I'm sorry, I don't want to. And if I see friends that are kind of like hemming and hawing, I'll just be like, oh, wow, that sounds like you don't really want to go. It doesn't interest you. And I just put that out there. And then they're like, no, I don't want to. Doesn't sound like fun to me. Great. Well, then don't go. Because quite frankly, do you want to be around people that are there just because you've asked them, they feel obligated, and then either they're going to bail last minute because they never wanted to go in the first place, or they're going to be there and you're going to know they're not going to be enjoying themselves? No. So let's just, there's, people that are saying this whole like, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that if we can start tapping into our feelings and our body when somebody asks us to do something, and then give ourselves that second just to think about it, because that's the thing, we don't think about it. We just go to, yes, okay, I'll do it. Like, especially if you're in the people pleasing mode all the time and like in a helping mode, which is good. It's good. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't be helping people, but like I said before, we need to be helping people when we have the energy, the capacity, the time, the ability to do it, not at our own sacrifice. So Sound Guy says, I don't set time. I track me time in an app and my mood. I fit it in where I can, but if I see that I haven't had it in a day or so, or my mood is on the decline, I do it. Frequency and my mood trend. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Actually, I think you've talked about this before, this app. That is very, very cool. Yes. That's one of the things. I was talking to one of my girlfriends the other day, and one of the things that's really interesting to me, anyway, is how we can be in such a good like habit of whatever it is, morning routine, sleep, our nutrition, the way that we're eating, whatever it is. And we can be in this really good, like, consistency, and it's feeling good and we're feeling good and we're reaping all the benefits. And then something happens that it trips it up. And then we just don't go back to it. And then a week, 2, 3 weeks goes by and we missed it. It's just gone. It's not part of our routine anymore, but we don't really know, why are we starting to feel a little bit on edge? Why are we feeling a little bit off? And I don't think, for me anyway, I haven't been taking the time to really sit and reflect on my day, on my week. What went well? What didn't go well? What did I miss out on? What should I have added? What could I have added? What could I have taken away? I don't reflect on those kinds of things. And this month, that is what I'm going to be focusing on, is really focusing on reflecting on my day and reflecting on how I wanted to feel, and then setting intention for the next day of how I want to feel, and looking at the things that worked. And, in business, we do that, right? We'll look back. This is a new quarter going forward into the quarter. You'll look back on the last quarter and say, okay, let's look at these areas of business and what worked. Let's carry those forward into the next quarter. Let's look at those areas, what didn't work, and let's not bring those into the next quarter. And let's adjust them. Let's adjust them so maybe they will work in the future, right? So we do this when it comes to business. We do this in a lot of different things, but we don't do this with what's helping our health, our well-being. I really want to start saying that more, our well-being as a whole, not just our health. But and so a couple of the things, you guys know that I had really struggled the last 6 weeks, I'd say. I've been having a lot of um growing pains, I'm gonna call it. When you're a kid and you're going through these growing spurts, and literally have growing pains. That's what I feel like I was going through for about 6 weeks there. It was a lot of growing pains because I was learning and becoming aware of a lot more internal things that were happening with me. And then I was making the changes, but some of them were hard. And in that, I stopped doing some of the things that was working for me. Some of those things were doing a deep breath practice, deep breathing practice every night before I went to bed. I was consistent on it. It was feeling really good. I was going to bed relaxed and peaceful, and I was waking up peaceful, and I was ready to take on the day. Some of the other things, I was going outdoors first thing in the morning, getting my sunlight and getting my walk in every single morning. It was happening 6 days a week at least. I stopped doing that because instead of doing 6 days, I started doing 4 days. Then I started doing 3 days. Then I started doing like 1 or 2 days. And then I was like maybe doing it once a week. But because it was slow on the decline, I wasn't doing what Sound Guy says, where he goes and looks at his frequency and at his trends to say, oh, shoot, it's been 2 days and I haven't really done anything for me. And you know what? I'm seeing that my mood's been going like progressively down. What am I going to do? And now I can fit this in and I can take a little bit of time for myself, you know? So that's something that I need to start working on, is really doing that reflection and seeing where we're at and seeing the things that have worked and why are we not doing those things anymore, and then just incorporating them. It's really easy when we know what worked to just throw it back in. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Just, you know what? When I was journaling, it felt really good. And I'm going to just start journaling again. Even if it's only 2 minutes a day, who cares? But just spending that little bit of time. Rohan says, I make sure to have the weekends off so I can do the things that I like to do. Sometimes other things just spill over into the weekend, and sometimes I'm okay, sometimes not. Okay, so that's totally fair. So that's one of those things where if we can set boundaries, so the boundary of, okay, I'm always going to take the weekends off, that's really good. Sometimes, like you said, things are going to spill over, but when they're spilling over, that is, and I'm speaking for myself too, Ro. Like when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about like this weekend. This weekend, I really want to focus on my passion project. I really want to focus on the happy framework. I have so many things that I want to push out into the world that I just have not taken the time, because there's always been something that has spilled over into the time that I thought I could spend on it. And really, what we need to do is we need to set those as priorities. And so in those moments, Ro, when you're saying, sometimes it's okay, that's fine. Yeah, there's a wedding, sure, you're gonna do it. There's whatever, and you feel good and you have the capacity, you have the energy, and you want to do it, great. But when it's not okay, we need to go back to what Kelly said and just say, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go. And you can also do that for big things. You can do those for big things. You don't have to show up anywhere. We don't have to do anything, you know? Um, will, do if you have the capacity, keeping your promise to yourself and keeping your promise to other people feels good. It fuels us. Um, and that's why it's so important to figure out the promises that we're making before we make the promise. And for me, I feel like, let's say you say that you're going to do something. Okay. Let's say somebody invites you to, I don't know, their party. Okay. And they're like, hey, you know what? Oh, perfect example. I've got a girlfriend. She's turning 50. Uh, Vic, if you're listening to this, I'm absolutely going to the party, but I'm just going to use this as an example. So she reaches out to me and she's like, hey, I invited you to this party, but I haven't seen your reply. Are you planning on going? I didn't see the reply. Or I didn't see the invite. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you sent it, that you are following up. When is it? Tell me about it. So I looked and it's October 12th, I think. Anyway, October 12th. And it's a dance party. It's an 80s dance party. So don't be jealous, you guys. I'm so excited for this. But anyway, October 12th. And so I was like, yes, I'm going to be there. I can't wait. That sounds really cool. Plus, it's like from 6 to 9, you guys. So I'm going to be in bed by 10. That's my kind of party. Like, I'm so excited for it. But if I said, yeah, I really want to go, and then I went to bed and I woke up and then I got that feeling of, oh gosh, I have such a long day that day. And now I've got to go to the party. And even though I kind of want to go, it's like, I would much rather just like stay at home because I already have this other obligation, blah, 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 whatever it is. Wouldn't it be better to tell that person the next day or that same day that, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I was really excited, genuinely excited to go to that thing. But then I thought about it and it's just, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm just not going to have the capacity to do it. And then you cancel then. Instead of what we do, oh, I already said I'm going to go. And then the time comes and then you come up with the excuse not to go. Oh, I'm not just really not feeling well. Oh, I'm just really tired. Oh, I'm just really whatever. And you bail last minute. When in your heart, you knew you never wanted to go to that thing. Maybe in the very beginning you had excitement, but you've been fighting it for weeks that you just didn't want to go to this thing and you were trying to come up with the excuse. Just be honest about it. I think I really, really do truly believe that friendships right now really need honesty. They don't need you to be a jerk about it, but they need honesty. We've got to stop lying to each other and showing up when we don't want to. A good example is Kelly and I. So Kelly and I have decided that we're going to start working out together, which I'm really, really excited about. And she lives 4 hours from me or 3 hours from me. So we're going to do it online. And I was genuinely excited. We had our first workout session. It was like an impromptu. It was really cool. And then we're like, okay, let's do this 2 days a week. Okay. So I was really excited. And the next time that we were going to do it was going to be on, I think, a Friday. Anyway, so we're doing it or we're about to do it. It's going to be like an hour away. And I'm having a really bad night. And I knew for me, I needed not to show up even though I knew Kelly was excited about it and I was wanting to be there. But for me, my nervous system, my peace, I needed just to be alone and I needed to go for a walk and I needed to think on my own and be with my own thoughts. And so I reached out to her and it felt hard because I was like, am I a really shitty friend if I cancel on this? I'm really sorry, but I just can't show up. And I didn't make an excuse. I didn't say, oh, something's come up. I'm really sorry. Like, I wish I could be there. I was like, you know what? I can't do this tonight. Can we do a rain check? And thankfully, we're good enough friends. And I think that's where you find out where your friends are. She was like, yeah, okay. But if you need me, call me. And I know she was bummed. I know she was like, because she already had things set up. She was already planning the workout. She was going to be the one that was going to be like figuring out what we were doing because I had no idea how to work out. But I hope that because it was honest and real, she understood. I think she did. And tell me, Kel. if you didn't. And now we're going to work out tonight, you know? And I think that's what it is. I think we need to start being really honest, not only with everybody else, but with ourselves. Um, so Rohan says, I've invited some people in the past to an event and had them cancel last minute. It hurts when they could have been honest earlier, or so it helps everyone earlier on. So it helps everyone. Exactly. Exactly. I'm putting an event together right now for November 10th. I'm super excited about it. People are buying tickets. And the thing that's going to suck is if people say, "Oh, I'm going to buy a ticket," just because they don't feel like they can say no to me, but then they never buy the ticket. Well, don't do that. Don't, because I don't want to follow up with you. I don't want to keep asking you, "Hey, you said you wanted to. Did you still want to?" And then you make some kind of like excuse. Just say, "No, you know what? That's not my jam. I'm not really interested in it, but let me know when you're doing other things. Who knows?" Right? Honesty is just, it's such the best policy. Rose says, be honest with yourself and be honest up front with others. Yes. And that's hard. We've been training ourselves to lie to ourselves all the time. So Sound Guy says, when you say no calmly, I found that people respond well to your boundary assertion and respect it. Those that don't, I remove them from my life or severely limit correspondence. Yes, that is awesome. That is so, so true. Yes. And I love that you put in there calmly. If you can just say no, not like, no, I can't do it. Like, like, because that's where we'll go too, is like, how dare you ask me? Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Yeah, everybody's busy. We're all busy, right? Uh, but that's actually not true. When Kelly was saying, I wish we could just normalize saying, I don't want to do it. Saying that you're busy for something just isn't true, because even if you had something, like let's say you had an appointment or you had something going on, and then I told you, hey, you know what? I just won the lottery. I've got an extra million sitting around and I'm going to give it to you if you show up at X time, X day, and you have an appointment. I highly I mean, I'm not a gambling person, but I would bet that you would rearrange that appointment, no matter how busy you were, to meet me at that time on that day to get the $1 million, right? So when we say that we're too busy, that's just not true. We always make time for the things that matter to us. You guys are here and you guys have been here for 40 minutes chatting about this because this is important to you, because having conversations like this is important to you. And, but you could be doing just about anything else, right? And there's a lot of people that say, oh, I don't have time, but then they're, watching a podcast like this, or reading a book, or doing whatever. And I think that's great, but you can always fit these things in if it's a priority for you. Um, yes. Okay. So Sound Guy, I just brought your thing up because it's good. The last part, when it says, when I remove those people from my life, if they don't respect my boundaries, the other thing that I want to bring to that is, when they don't respect your boundaries, for me, what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to ask myself, was I clear about my boundary? And did I maintain that boundary? Because sometimes, like, we just kind of let people do things. I've got one girlfriend and she bought some nails from me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll bring it over tonight. And then she said, now I had every intention of bringing it over. It was going to put me out a little bit to do it that night, but I didn't mind. I was going to do it. But then she was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, even if I just got it by Friday, that would be fine. Okay. Now, I said that I was going to do it. She could have just said, yes, that's great. Let's do it on like tonight. She would have had her nails. It would have been done. But then when she gave me I'll just have it like as long as I have it by Friday, I did it tonight. So it was 2 days later. That example isn't like super concrete, but the thing is that she opened up her kind of boundary of like wanting it that night, being able to get it that night so she could have it, to now opening it up to, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. It can be. And I don't take advantage of people, but I did take advantage of that because it fit better into my schedule for today. Well, think about that when we say something like, oh, I can't really do this. And then we feel a little bit guilty and we're like, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I could do it. I could do it. And then you get pissed off because that person on the other end takes you up on what you just said. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I started with I didn't want to. They knew how I felt. They knew I was uncomfortable with it. Who gives a shit? Everybody's in it for themselves. So if you open up that boundary at all, people are going to take advantage of it. And then it's not really them that's taking advantage of you. It's you that's taking advantage of you, of your kindness, and you're opening that up. You know what I'm saying? So I think we really need to look at when people are stepping over it. What are we doing? Are we allowing it? And then, if we're not allowing it, but then they're getting pissed off about it, then yeah, they're not your people. That's totally fine. Kelly says, yes, I did. Okay. I'm hoping that meant you did understand. Oh my gosh, you guys. I am so excited for this month. Like talking about this, I think is going to be really, really good. The other thing about like boundaries sometimes is figuring out like where things fit best in your life. So sometimes like there's a lot of things that you do have obligations for. If you've got kids, you've got to take kids to school when school starts. You can't be like, well, school starts at 8:30, but like that's really affecting my boundary of I really wanted to fill in the blank. I really wanted to go running from 8 to 9, and that's my back. Well, okay, if you have a responsibility that you have to do and you know that you want to do it, set your boundaries accordingly so then you're not stressed out the whole time trying to figure out how you're going to fit things in. Sometimes waking up a little bit earlier in the morning to fit things in for you, for your me time, that's a boundary that you can't step over. Like sometimes the boundaries are not only for the other people, they're for us, that we need to start keeping our promise to us. That's one of the things that I really learned this summer, when I was really, and actually this year. It started in the winter when I was saying, you know what, I'm not setting an alarm, or I'm not snoozing an alarm anymore. When I started doing that, that was the first promise that I was keeping to myself every single morning. And it felt good. And then I would get up and I would say, if I knew I was going out for a walk, no matter what the weather was, I went for that walk. And that felt good. I was keeping my promise to myself. And those are the things that that's one of the ways of us really teaching ourselves to be honest with ourselves and keeping that promise to ourselves. And then when we're with other people, if we can start if we've got these morning routines and then we've got these nighttime routines that we know that our sleep is really important to us. And if we know that we have to be in bed by 10, here's a big one, you guys. It's a big one for me because this is where I have a boundary of, it's not a boundary. It's not, it's a wish that I'd like to go to bed at 10 o'clock because I'd like to wake up at 6 o'clock. However, if things end up happening that I'm at a meeting and it goes longer and then I come home and then I want to spend time with Mike and then it's oh shoot, I also have to do this thing and then blah, blah, blah. And now it's now all of a sudden I'm going to bed at 11 o'clock. That ends up spiraling into the whole rest of my week because that night I'm not going to get my sleep. And then the next morning, I'm not going to wake up refreshed. And then I'm going to have a shitty day. And then usually it starts spiraling unless I can catch it, unless I do, what Sound Guy was saying about reflecting back on the trends and saying, okay, I need to put my foot down. But those things for ourselves, we know where we work best. If we work best by going to bed at 10 o'clock, then we need to say no to the things that don't allow us to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Like this party that I'm going to be going to, this birthday party, for you young people, get ready to be in your 40s and 50s, because there's parties out there that you can be done by 9 o'clock. That might sound really lame to some of you, but like I am that. I told her, I was like, I don't even care about, I'm excited about the theme. The 80s theme is going to be pretty cool. But I was like, just the fact that it's done at 9 is amazing, because now I get to come home and go to bed at 10 o'clock and be asleep, and then wake up on the Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning and start my day and feel super refreshed. But if her party was until 11 or 12 o'clock, that's a boundary I need to keep with myself. It's not her. She has nothing to do with it. It's me that I have to say, you know what? I'm going to be leaving at 9 because I want to be in bed by 10. But we feel like, oh, well, how rude would that be if I didn't stay for the whole thing? They don't care. They don't care. If you can show up for something, or ask them, say, hey, I can't show up for the whole thing. I can't show up for all of this. This is what I can do. How do you feel? Do you want me to show up for the whole, like for part of it? Or would it be just better that I don't show up at all? And we can leave that in their court. And then they can say, oh, yeah, just come for an hour. That'd be great. Or that'll be kind of weird because we're not going to have dinner yet. And, so that's fine. Right? Like if we can all have those honest conversations, can you imagine what our life would be like, and what our friendships would be like, what our relationships would be like? So setting boundaries, I really do think it's a lot about honesty with ourselves and honesty with other people. That's really hard. Because even though we want to say that we're really truthful, there's a lot of like games that we play, and so in the coming month we're going to be talking about all of it. And so I really, really, really hope that you guys bring things that have worked for you. Sound guy, you've had some really good things here. Rohan, Kelly, you guys, I'm so grateful for you guys being here. I hope you come back every week this month. So Wednesday, 8 p.m., we are going to kind of wrap up right now. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, or whatever the equivalent is for you. And bring a friend, and let's start having these conversations and really get some tangible things that we can be doing. And then next week, I really want to hear, okay, so we've got something else. This is usually what happens. I wrap up and then there's more to come. Is that a boundary that I'm not setting? I don't know. But I really want to know how you guys are working on your boundaries. If this is something that you feel like you need a little bit more work with, I give you that challenge to start looking at it, and start chipping away at it. So Sound Guy says two different things. One, as a people pleaser, boundaries with others is difficult. And two, I like to frame boundaries as self-respect and civility. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yes. So I am a recovering people pleaser. That's what I'm saying now, even though like an hour ago I was a people pleaser. I'm realizing what we're saying to ourselves, we're listening all the time. So when I say I am a people pleaser, then my body, my mind, my brain is always looking for ways for me to become a people pleaser. So now I'm saying I'm a recovering people pleaser, because yes, I've been that in the past an hour ago. I don't want to be that anymore. I want it, like, pleasing people is great. But the saying of people pleaser really means that it's at the detriment to yourself. It's at, no matter what, you're going to please the other person. If we can look at it like we're part of those people, I think we talked about this in another show. If people pleasing, we're included in those people, then I'm all for it. But usually we're not, right? It's the other person that we're always going to try to please. So setting boundaries, I think, is, yes, hard, but really important, because then we're able, I want you to think about it this way. The more that we set these boundaries, and like you say, it's for self-respect and for civility, we're able to please those other people more in the long run. If we look at it in the course of a year, let's say, if we're really people pleasing, and then we're burned out, or we resent them, or we're just sick of them and we don't start answering the phone when we see that they're calling us, or we start pulling away. Now, how often can we please this person? We're not going to, right? We're going to ghost them. We're going to do whatever. If we can only please them when we have the capacity, we're going to be able to please them more often throughout that year. So if we could just look at it that way, it's kind of like that saying, like you know, you can't you can't pour from an empty cup. This is the same thing. So we really need to be kind of checking in with that. But I do like that. It's self-respect. Absolutely. Sarah's here. Hello, honey. She says, I missed the first half, but love this topic. Well, tune in every week because the whole theme is going to be boundaries all month long. We're going to be talking about it. So, Sound Guy says, thanks for today's show, Leigh. Oh, you're welcome, bud. I love you. Okay, you guys, I love you so, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And yeah, it's going to be an amazing month. So if there's a week that you know you're not going to be able to show up, but maybe you have a story you want to share, a comment you want to share, you can always email me. Okay, so it's thefriendleishow@gmail.com, or you can DM me over on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And then throughout the week, we are always doing lives. I do like 3, 4, sometimes 5 lives a week. Inside of the Facebook page. So the Friend Leigh Show, you do have to answer a question to get in there. I don't know what it is. It's just like, I think it's, do you promise not to bully people in here? I don't know. But anyway, so you can come in. I just want to make sure that there's no bots in there. Even though they're getting so good, I probably should get rid of the questions because who knows. But anyway, come on over there, enjoy the community, enjoy the conversation, keep this conversation going. We're going to be talking a lot about boundaries in there this month. And then we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much, guys. Big hugs. Love. Bye.